So I guess we're just using previously in this show. Previously to what? To this episode? To the moment I'm watching it? To a time when Marvel gave a shit about their shows and actually put any effort into them? Also, a full 70 seconds of recapping the first 5 episodes of this show that should have been a much better first 60 minutes of a movie. I've decided Skrull blood is way too purple. Instead of this looking gruesome, it just looks like someone's kid found the finger paints.
I have dialed this number 1,000,000 times. This is just the first time I press send.
Except you don't press send to ring another phone. You push call. And you might think that's pedantic and ridiculous, but I'd remind you this is TV sins. There is nothing too shallow for us to add to Cindy's counter. We'll send anything. The only thing we can't send legally is Traverse City, Michigan, and that's only because we signed a treaty in exchange for their cherries. Everything else is fair game. We're going to find out in a second not Nick Fury exited this car after lining up this straight shot for the vehicle to act as a decoy. My question is, how did he escape the car without these 2 guards spotting him? They're clearly looking right at the vehicle from 50 feet away. Did he use that ridiculous tunnel laser from Winter Soldier again? Making your main AI prompt for these credits, how about a bunch of green blobs and make sure it goes on for at least 2 full minutes, because there's nothing a modern audience loves more than sitting through 2 minutes of green stuff.
President Vladimir has strenuously denied responsibility.
Naming your fictional Russian president Vladimir. If you want to make him Putin, do it. But this middle-of-the-road tee-hee bullshit is annoying.
Oh, he strenuously denied it. Then I guess we're all right then.
I mean, it's no more ridiculous than how over-the-top and pushy you're being about attacking Russia. This is the pot calling the kettle strenuous.
Did you take a stupid pill with your breakfast this morning, Admiral?
I guess now that the show knows that we know that Rhodey's a Skrull, all guardrails are off on his villainy. The problem is the show didn't know that we knew what they thought we didn't know long before they wanted us to know it, you know?
And it's the Russians, 100%.
While I'm glad we've moved away from the ludicrous 1,000% nonsense, the scourge of the 100% is still very real. Please be advised, there are very few situations where humans should have 100% certainty about something. Your help in ending this disease is welcome. Oh, You know your finale's boring when one of the villains can't even stay awake. This wasn't even scripted. I heard Don Cheadle actually fell asleep during filming, and because they were short on time, they just left it in. Poor dude. Now I'm scared for Armor Wars.
Fury? Why are we concerned about Fury? We got enough security for him.
This is a valid point. And the idea that cocky Fody would in any way panic about Old Man Fury, a person whose strength he has scoffed at this entire series, is ludicrous. 100%.
To the last stand of the great Nick Fury.
Show's over-optimistic tagline somehow makes it into the final episode.
Fury, tell me you got a backup plan. Your Avengers on standby.
Are you kidding? With a $212 million budget for 6 measly episodes, I hope this finale has at least a few Avengers on standby. What else would the money even go toward?
What about that invisible cloak and shield?
Actually, Gravik, the show was called Cloak and Dagger, but I don't blame you for getting the title wrong. Nobody remembers that series.
You too busy playing dress up. Using my skin like a costume.
Show again hints at what could have been an incredible exploration of appropriation in the Black experience, and again fails to even give a moment to the deeper questions the audience might be asking. Why find any nuance or depth when you can stop at keeping things skin deep?
He turned the war people
Into a band of beggars, and what I'm supposed to emulate that? I'm supposed to be like Talos and put my trust in you. You pimped us, Fury.
Possibly the greatest sin of this series is wasting this incredible Kingsley Ben-Adir performance. It's haunting, captivating, and powerful, and is languishing in a show that is anything but. Also, Olivia Colman. You wasted her too, you marvelous morons. Also, Gravik sure does seem to have a lot of rage build up for Fury. I mean, he really hates the guy. Good thing the show rushed through its story in typical Marvel Disney Plus fashion, so the audience didn't get any time to see Gravik coming to hate Fury or having tiny pieces of his heart torn out with every kill. Yep, 6 episodes was plenty.
You're right, I failed you. I failed you.
This whole speech might have had a chance of being very meaningful if it was actually Fury saying it. But because the show needs its big twist, we never get any kind of deep exploration of how Fury really feels about his role in all of this. Somewhere in a nuclear facility, Marvel has a genuinely interesting and nuanced take on this topic, hooked up to a machine so that this show can be a pale imitation of it.
Because it's easier to save the lives of 8 billion people than it is to change their hearts and minds.
I see once again we're playing the Earthlings can't handle an alien species inhabiting their planet bit, so I'll once again remind you that New Asgard exists.
You know, the last thing I felt before I flaked off.
No, I don't. And neither do you. What the is up with the lights flashing as these agents are shot? Is the shooter standing right next to the light switch panel with a gun in their hand? What exactly does making the hallway dark for an entire second accomplish? Was the shooter running low on darts and hoping to induce a seizure?
Is that what I think it is?
Do you think it's all the Avengers' DNA in a convenient suppository form? Because that's what I thought it was.
I think the radiation's eating your brains, mate.
Right? Because how could he think he has any leverage? And why would he even bring it with him if he wanted to make a safe trade? And how could he even guarantee that you would follow through on getting off the planet? It's almost like you should have known this was a setup by this point. If confidential strike orders have to travel and be transferred hand to hand to be executed, then I all of a sudden have a severe distrust in our government's ability to execute anything quickly. It's like military protocol was designed to create false plot tension or something. Oh, bullshit. You didn't hook that vial up to anything. You just stuck it in your little microwave with tubes inside. This cannot be how a DNA reader works. Also, how is your little computer able to identify all of this DNA if you didn't already have known samples to compare them to? How is the computer programmed to recognize the DNA of Thanos' henchman, Ebony Maw? Even if you somehow collected his blood, there's no way you'd be able to identify it. The harvest is just a dumb idea altogether with more holes in it than the beer can I shoot my BB gun at every weekend. So here's, let's just say 30 sins.
Okay, you can move them in here.
Clearing a room, but missing the British lady behind the door in the bright pink overcoat.
No checking behind the doors. You really are a Skrull.
How does not checking behind doors make him a Skrull? Is that a well-known and publicized Marvel fact that Skrulls never check behind doors? Surprise twist! Not shown. Surprise.
You're flailing. You're weak.
And I've got a Drax arm, because that makes total sense. Also, why did Gaia get his sleeve tattoos? Those were part of his DNA. They were added to commemorate important moments in his life. So why does the Mother of Dragons have them? This climax makes no sense. Also, title of my sex tape. This whole he's the real villain, shoot him cliche goes on for all the some time. The show has already established they could just shoot Rhodey in the arm and he changed back, proving he's a Skrull. It's remarkable how you can just rush through an entire series and then have so little to put in your finale. I'm almost impressed. Almost. I think Marvel expects us to all be furiously fan-masturbating over all of these combined powers, but I'm over here thinking, you can go Hulk or Captain Marvel and you thought an Ebony Maw Paw was ever the right move? This 10-second shot of a missile silo opening for a missile we all know will never be launched helped nudge this final episode over 30 minutes. Great work. Much excitement.
Sir, you're looking at your enemy.
Actually, Nick, the president is clearly looking at you in this next shot, unless you're implying you really are his enemy. These two finally decide to go Captain Marvel at the same time, because as if this same versus same finale wasn't enough on its own, Marvel's now made it several little same versus sames within one larger scale same versus same. It's like a never-ending Marvel Troska of Russian nesting drolls. She went from 0 to full mantis so fast. Does just having the DNA cocktail give you the expertise to even use the powers you might have? Like, you can give me the DNA of Jordan and I might get taller, but I'm not dunking from the free throw line 30 seconds later. Now that I think about it, this show basically steals its plot from Space Jam, and that explains a lot. Sure, I'm glad we gave Emilia Clarke Captain Marvel's powers rather than just, you know, bringing in Captain Marvel, the Skrull expert. Really dodged a bullet there. I have all these powers and I choose uppercut, leg chop, neck grab. And there you go. Gaia is now the most OP Marvel character to ever OP. Sure, the shows and movies will now wrestle with that in ways that completely make sense. Show wants me to believe the President of the United States can cancel a nuclear strike while calling from an unknown British cell phone. Show should be prepared for disappointment, just like I was going into this finale.
How long have you been in here?
Asking a question that the person you're asking it to would have no way to answer, and that the show you're on has no interest in revealing yet. Also, it appears Rhodes is wearing a hospital gown, which probably means he's been a Skrull since after his Civil War injuries. And if you think I'm not giving a handful of preemptive sins for the Rhodey that was at Stark's funeral being a Skrull, you have failed to grasp how seriously I take my responsibilities here. This dumb, way too curvy intersection.
That is why tonight I'm presenting to Congress for immediate emergency authorization a bill that designates all off-world-born species enemy combatants.
Man, those poor guys in New Asgard are f***ed. The Skrulls lost one home, but the Asgardians are apparently about to lose home number 2.
We know who you are. We know how to find you. And we will kill every last one of you.
Presidents.
I love you.
Skrull.
Yes, well, let's be sure not to repeat the mistakes of Talos and Fury.
Wait, who?
Talos.
Talos? Did you just pronounce both of those syllables wrong? Isn't it Talos? Just because you're British doesn't mean you get to waltz in here with your hoity-toity Queen speech and change how names are pronounced. Although, I guess I should be thanking you, because now that the show itself can't even agree on how a name is pronounced, that'll keep people in the comments from saying I'm saying things wrong. What a world that would be.
And leave love and friendship out of this.
Cutting off my Gaia Falsworth fanfic efforts before they'd even begun.
I will use you, and you will use me.
Immediately encouraging my Gaia Falsworth fanfic efforts after you just thwarted them. Sci-fi property ends with a person discovering a warehouse full of clones/androids/hosts. Cliché.
Give me a break. There's only one way this ends.
Is it with Mulder and Scully showing up? Because that's the only way you're getting any sins back on this episode.
If you truly care about the Skrulls, get them off my planet.
But it's not your planet. Britson's just the president of the U.S., right? Or is it more like a Nixon Futurama situation?
Good news from Saber. The Kree said they're open to peace talks with the Skrulls.
First, since we don't know what Saber stands for yet, we can't officially know how to say it and if Fury is pronouncing it correctly. So here's a sin for withholding that information. And second, the Krees are open to peace talks? Man, with that information, it almost makes this entire series completely disposable. I mean, if the show hadn't done a good enough job at that on its own. Also, how did that work with the blip? Was the war suspended as half the Kree in the universe disappeared? And when they came back, did the war start again? I have so many questions. And I'd love to do more research on this, but I'm already in my pajamas.
That I love you. As I am.
Only as you are.
Although, now that I think about it, maybe back to the human teeth during makeout sessions and other mouth-related activities?
Real arm? It's plastic.
And it's the Russians, 100%.
100%. 100%. But I killed him because of you.
I learned it by watching you.
First, I'm gonna kill you.
I say we hang him, then we kill him.
This thing that you do when you whip your hair when you're fighting with the arm and the hair, and you do like a fighting pose. It's a fighting pose. You're a total poser.
We know who you are.
I will find you, and I will kill you.